everybody. It is Becky Mossbrucker here with the Stronger Together Tribe podcast. Today, we are talking to Nancy Keaton, and Nancy has retired, and she's going to tell us what she's doing with her life nowadays, that she's not working a full-time job as a paid full-time person, whatever that was, and how she fills up her time. So welcome, Nancy.
Thank you.
So what are you doing with your time now that you're not working for someone else?
So to earn money, I just want to earn a little extra money in retirement. I started freelance writing in 2011, just to kind of build towards that. And so I am writing for Women's Outdoor News and Shooting Industry Magazine. And if you don't know, shooting industry is more for the retailers. So it's like Women's Outdoor News is for more of the consumer, and then shooting industry for the retailers. And then my husband and I just started a blog called Winter Texans en Route. And so winter Texans are what everybody else calls snowbirds, but it had kind of a negative connotation. And winter Texans are like, welcome, come on down. And so a gal named Sarah Bors, who I met at a travel blogging conference, said, I always thought that somebody needed to write about the things to see and do on the way to their winter Texas home or on their way home. And so that's what my husband and I have started writing about. And that is so fun. We just spent a week up in Kansas getting some information up there and exploring that.
That is a great idea. I've never thought about traveling along the way.
Yeah, all these places, stay off the freeway and you just see amazing things. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I also, as soon as I got here, I heard about the Hot Fair and Rodeo, HOT, Heart of Texas. And so I volunteered at that. And that's just until in October when I went to the first meeting. I met a gal who said there's a group in town called Waco, Newcomers and Neighbors of Waco. So it's new people like me, and people have been here for a while. So we have a luncheon every month with a speaker, but there's also SIG groups, special interest groups like Bunko and Texas Wanderers who go and visit some things. And so I joined that, and now I am in charge of the newsletter for it. And then we stopped by the Republican office, and there's a group here, the McLennan County Republican Women, and it's huge. I think it's the second largest in Texas. And we have fantastic speakers, and they're not all about politics. We had a gentleman who came to speak who was the Surgeon General for the Space Force. Oh, wow. And so he came and talked about what medical care in space would look like if you're traveling from one planet to another. And so he talked about 3D printing organs, and they're trying to figure out how to 3D print blood cells and stuff. And so interesting things like that we have some really fun speakers on. And then I somehow got on the membership committee for that. So I make the name badges every month for that meeting. And then we found out there's a Waco metal detecting club, and we've been wanting to do that. So we joined that and get a help. Sometimes, like a week or two ago, we went to, there's the Doris Miller Veterinary Medical Center here in town, and they're getting ready to I think tear down some old buildings or somehow do some reconstructions. So they ask for metal detecting groups to come and search the grounds for any historical objects before they start tearing it up. And there really wasn't much, although one guy found a very interesting Nazi coin. So that was interesting that was in the ground. And we've got to, by meeting other people in this group, we got to go out and metal detect at the Branch Davidian site. We got to go up to just south of the town of West Texas, which is between Dallas and Waco. In 1896, a guy decided to crash 2 locomotives together for a PR stunt. Okay. And unfortunately, 3 people were killed, but 50,000 people showed up for that thing. It was amazing. And they were all grabbing souvenirs afterwards and stuff. Well, now it's just a cow pasture, and nobody had ever metal detected. And so we were invited to go out there and do that, and have just found like some beautiful copper pieces of something, and just different pieces of even the locomotive. The guy who took us out there, he found some hatch of the, something. And so let's see, what else is it? Oh, and then we have the Waco Mammoth National Monument here. So it's where they found a bunch of Colombian mammoths. And it's a nursery herd with mamas and babies. And I guess it's the only kind in the nation like that. So it became a national monument, and they're finally starting to explore it a little bit more, and where volunteers are now being accepted. So now I'm volunteering there. It just started a couple of weeks ago. I've been out there once, so I got to with a Q-tip clean a mammoth bone because they were wanting to get them ready. It's undercover in a building, but we've had so much rain that water was kind of seeping in, getting close, and they didn't know if they were going to have to move these particular bones. So they wanted them clean so they could put a plaster jacket on it if they needed to. And so I spent like 2 hours hunched over cleaning this mammoth bone, and I was just in heaven. And this weekend, so tomorrow, heading off to East Texas because I found out the Texas Archaeological Association has a field school there this time of year, and they'll take us nobodies, that just have an interest and aren't, college students or interns or archaeologists. And so we can go over and volunteer for how many ever days you want. And I'm doing it for 3 days because, like I said, we've been gone for a week to Kansas too. So that's like a lifelong dream for me. I said my next life, I'm going to be an archaeologist. So to have this opportunity this close, I'm beyond excited about.
So what are you going to be doing on that trip? What are you looking for?
I think it's the Caddo, Caddo Indians were in that area, and they had dug there last year. And I really would like to dig, and help them dig for stuff. But I find that, so I used to absolutely love the heat, and now I struggle a little with it. And so I was like, man, I don't know if I can do. And when I made the signed up for it, and I thought, who knows what the weather's going to be? If it's pouring down rain, okay, I'm from the Northwest, I can do that. But if it's hot and humid, I don't know if I can last many hours. So I chickened out and just signed up for the lab part. So I think we'll be working with the stuff they bring in, which I did years and years ago up in Oregon with some. I did a week-long thing up there, working in a lab with some stuff they dug up that previous summer. And that's where I learned from the gal I was working with that bone is porous. And if you stick it to your tongue, it'll kind of suck to it. I'm like, oh, you go ahead. I'm not sticking a 500-year-old piece of bone to my tongue. Do that.
No, not me.
I'll do all the other stuff, but nothing's going on my tongue.
That is funny. Well, I know that in Williamsburg, close to where I live, they do some kind of excavations there too, because they're still finding things from colonial times. So if you ever want to come to the East Coast, look at Colonial Williamsburg, look at their website and see what kind of digs they have going on.
I will have to do that because I also then joined Daughters of the American Revolution when I came down here.
Oh my God, you are so busy. I have never met anybody that's retired that is that busy. You are absolutely right. You have no lack of things to do.
I don't, and of course, doing a Girl and a Gun. I run the Waco chapter. I'm the facilitator for that. So yeah, it's pretty busy. And I found out that I think it's pronounced Galt site is just down the road about an hour, and it's an archaeological site that basically rewrote. They used to think that the Clovis people were the oldest, and there was just no arguing that. And then they found information at this site that says yes, there were here longer, and I found out they take volunteers.
Oh wow!
My husband and my brother, and they both just rolled their eyes at me.
You definitely are into archaeology.
Yeah. I never thought I would have this opportunity. I thought about it, something I'd like to do in retirement, but it doesn't seem like there was much in the Northwest that they allowed amateurs to get involved with. But here in Texas, they seem to be all encouraging of it. And so
what brought you to Texas from the Northwest?
So I retired after 35 years at a college up there, and my husband too. And things got kind of crazy up there. And my little brother is down by San Antonio, and we honestly thought that's where we were going to be. And we came down for my husband to do RV school in Athens, and decided, we got him signed up before we decided to come. We decided to go ahead and move. And so we put all our stuff down in storage down at San Antonio. And then our son was still living with us up there because you just can't get a place to live. It's so hard up there. And so we were going to put him down somewhere by San Antonio, and then found out that it's like twice the size of Seattle. We're like, oh, you don't put a country boy in Seattle, let alone something twice that size. Well, then my husband had a dream about Waco. He's like, we should consider Waco. I'm like, Waco, I want to be near my little brother. We haven't lived near each other as adults. He's like, well, just think about it. I'm like, whatever. A couple weeks later, I'm having a dream. We're like,
Oh,
okay, we'll check it out. So when we came down, dropped the rest of our stuff down in at San Antonio, we came into Waco, got in town on a Wednesday night. By Friday, our son had a job in an apartment, which was perfect because we were leaving Saturday to go to Athens, and we thought we were going to have to put him in a long-term apartment thing or motel or something. So then we were still debating, though, is this where we were going to settle? Gone over for Athens for 2 months. And so we come back and we'd rented a RV spot just outside of Waco for on a monthly basis to kind of check it out. We got in town on a Sunday. My daughter sent me a house she saw on Zillow that night. I sent it to the realtor that we were going to meet with the next day to only talk to online. We said, hey, can we maybe look at this tomorrow? She said, sure. So we came and looked at it, made an offer. We were in the house 3 weeks later. We're like, okay, God, this is where you want us. And we love it.
oh my gosh, that is so funny. So do you ever see Chip and Joanna Gaines?
Haven't seen them personally.
I want to go to Waco just for that.
Huh?
I want to go to Waco just to see them because I love their stuff.
I know.
watch everything.
I don't know if you know how you tell when they're in and out of town, but they actually live just a couple miles from me down the highway.
Oh, that is funny.
Oh, it's funny, but it is fun to go that stuff to take people to the silos and stuff. And they opened that new hotel 1928, and my daughter was here to visit, and we went and see it, and then we came back, and then we binge watched all the shows. So it was really actually more fun. It'd be fun to watch it either way, because then I had to go back again after watching the show to see it. And that it's expensive. It's like $400 a night if you want to stay there, but you can go in it and look around without staying there. And it is gorgeous. It's like, I can understand why they charge that much, because you want people taking care of this stuff. And the library of it, it's like a speakeasy with the colors and stuff, but you can go either down to either of these two staircases and all these books. And it's just, you just want to have a cup of coffee and sit there amongst all these old books. Have you seen that show?
Oh yeah, that's how I know them. I watch all their stuff with the house building and all this. And then the last episode I saw, they had bought the hotel, and Joanna was talking about what she wanted to do in each room, and you know, Chip's being a goofball like he is, and I was like, I hadn't seen the finished product, so yeah, I'm anxious to.
It's impressive.
Wow.
And all those books, so I walk in, I'm like, are these real? And I'm like, they are. And then I pull it out and look, and they're old. And you know, you can see the dates in there and some little pencil marks from when it was in the bookstore and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I hope these are going to be safe here. Hope people just don't take off with these old books.
Right.
But,
so that is so cool.
Yeah.
I always find it interesting when people live in one part of the country and they uproot themselves and move somewhere else. Like, what got them to do that? You know, was it family? Was it, you know, you just like the area or whatever? And my husband is from North Dakota and I'm from Indiana. And how we ended up in Virginia was the military.
Oh, okay.
A whole bunch of military right here where I am. And when he got out of the military, he got a job at a plant here. And we were kind of like, all right, do we want to stay here? Like, where else would we go? And I'm like, you know, your family's way up there. I don't like the cold like that anymore. And my family is in Florida, and one sister still lives in Indiana. And I'm like, you know, my kids have been raised in Virginia. This is all they know. They were born in other states, but they were actually raised here and don't know any place else. And I'm like, I think we're staying. So
I would have said that a couple of years ago. I was shocked. I never thought of leaving. And then, you know, the stuff happened in Washington, and my youngest moved off to Florida, and that about killed me. And then my oldest daughter is still up there. And so she comes to see me about every 3 months. And so that's really helpful. As a matter of fact, I'm seeing her in about 2 weeks. So that was hard because I'm like, we were all settled, because the one that moved to Florida was 38 then, 37. And by those ages, you know, she had a house, she had a job and everything. But things were just so bad in Washington. We were shut down for a lot longer than we even realized that the rest of the world wasn't.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. And so and it's just actually getting worse up there, so it's kind of scary. But I'm kind of glad, you know, I thank God for sending us here, because all of these things I wouldn't have done up there. As a matter of fact, my first couple of years of retirement, I did do a part-time job But mainly I said I felt like I was just sitting there waiting to die because there was so much that you still couldn't do with the plans I'd had for retirement. Things weren't allowed now, and the weather's awful. And in November up there, you're like not even sure what time it is because it's so dark and dreary and rainy.
I could
And
not deal with I can't deal with that. I'm a sunshine kind of girl. I love the sun.
that's why I wasn't surprised. My youngest moved off to Florida because she always wanted to move someplace warm and sunny, always. And so I loved it here, except the last couple of weeks we're getting like record rain, and the lake had been 12 feet below full a year ago. And in October it rained for about 3 days, and it went to 3 feet above. So it rained 15 feet coming down stuff, and it filled it up. Well, then the rain over the last couple of weeks, it got to 20 feet over full. It's like, okay, stop raining. We're no longer in a drought. And I said they can thank me because my grandson always said that it rains wherever we go, because we went to Hawaii together and had record rain there.
Oh, no, rain follows you, huh?
Yeah, so they can thank me for curing the drought.
Oh man. Well, that's cool. So you said you just started your blogging? Travel blogging or
blog. This one we just started in February or March. We went to the Southern Travelers Explore blogging conference in Gulf Shores, Alabama, and that's where we met this gal who gave us the idea, and met a bunch of other bloggers and get some. But we'd had one several years back up called Northwest Revealed, and just kind of stopped on it. But I noticed it still I'll get notice that, like, one of your stories had so many views. I'm like, people are still seeing that. And that just covered Northwest stuff. But yeah.
So the meeting that you said you went to in Alabama, what did you say that group was called?
Southern Travelers Explore.
I may have to look them up.
Yeah, they're getting ready to announce where they're having the one for next year, and I'm anxious to see where that's going to be. And the couple of the gals there were there's one Midwest Travel Writers Network or something. I feel bad not having that right, but they have them coming up, I think, next week in Shipshewana, Indiana.
Oh, wow.
Which I'd love to go to, except that, like I said, I'm going back up to Washington to see my daughter and grandsons in 2 weeks, couple of weeks. I've lost track of time. I have so many trips going on and so many things planned that my daughter kept saying, so many days till Hawaii, because I'm going up there and we're going to Hawaii for the youngest grandson's graduation trip. I'm like, I have 5 things before then that I can't even think about that until then.
That is too funny. That's one thing that I've always thought about when I retire. We have a camper. We have a very small camper, but it's a travel trailer. It's, it works for the 2 of us, and I'm really trying hard to convince someone to get a bigger one. But anyway, that's kind of what I thought. Let's just close up the house for a month or so, and let's just travel outside of Virginia. Let's go somewhere else. And just go visit some other states. We rarely, and I'm sure that a lot of people are the same way. When we travel, we go see family.
Oh.
And that's it. And then we come back. And I'm like, I'm done with that. I love my family. And yes, I want to go visit them. But then I want to do other stuff too while I'm there. My husband's family is in North Dakota. I'm like, well, let's go to South Dakota and let's go see Mount Rushmore. And he's like, really? It's overdone, blah, blah, blah. There's too many people. I'm like, look, I saw it once when I was 17. That was a long time ago. I would love to go back and see it again.
And see it at night when you see the light shining on it.
There you go.
And we were there when the thunderstorm happened, so it's lightning around it too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Probably don't want to plan that because there was also like tornado warnings the
whole
time. It's one I'm not liking down here, although I'm getting it figured out, the tornado stuff. That's a little spooky.
Yeah, my son lives in Arkansas and they have tornadoes a lot. And we did in Indiana. I remember looking out of our window and seeing one. I don't know how many miles away it was. I don't know, 10 miles away, I guess, or something like that. But you could clearly see the funnel and everything.
Oh.
And my mom was yelling at us to shut the door because we're looking out the door at it. And she was like, yeah. So one time I ever saw one for real.
Well,
happens a lot in the Midwest.
We were going to travel probably full time in an RV, we thought. But after just plain old being in the storms with it down here, I said, I hate this, and then we like our stuff. Yeah. And it's like we couldn't be without that. And so we actually got rid of it last year. So here we thought all these years that, for retirement, and we take it. And so last week, like driving up to Kansas, we stayed in a motel every night. Yes, they're a little expensive, but there was storm warnings the whole time. We were not sure and I would have been freaking out in the RV because, even if it's just hail, I was worrying, well, what if it breaks all the windows and this is our home and now where do we go? And it was
Right.
stress for me. And so it worked really good just to take the car and go.
Yeah. You know what? There's no problem doing that.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So, other than blogging, you're doing freelance writing. So you said you wrote for some magazines.
So,
Um,
oh,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Tell me about the magazines that you're writing for again.
So right now it's Shooting Industry magazine. So it's for the retailers. So they have a woman in arms in the woman column. And so oftentimes I'll do articles that relate to somehow with, women, making women at home on the range or something like that. And
That's
other
cool.
times I'm interviewing retailers about their best-selling hunting items or whatever. So it's fun. It's a little sometimes, so I'm calling ranges or retailers all over the country. A lot of times they won't talk to me and I'm like, are they not wanting to talk to me because they think I'm Mama's Demand or I'm ATF trying to, catch them at doing something? So it can sometimes be several phone calls before I get somebody willing to talk to me. But interesting story for somebody who's wanting to write, how I came across that one. A friend shared an article about a woman who bought the range that I used to shoot at up there when I was first taken at Firearms Academy of Seattle. And so somebody did an article about her, a female gun range owner. And I'm like, I saw the article. I'm like, what publication is this? And so I went on LinkedIn and I found the editor and I followed him. And then it's right in my bio that I write about women and firearms. And so I think it was by that afternoon and then a link to my articles so somebody could see how I wrote. And so that afternoon he was asking if I was interested in writing for him. So that's been a little over a year. And
That
so
is awesome. So what kind of topics do you write about? I mean, there's always oh my gosh, what is her name? Beth Alzakar, right? She writes a lot of stuff. And I follow her stuff and it's all I love it. I in my head I'm like, how many topics can you possibly come up with? And she's always got a new topic. I'm like, golly darn, I want to be like that.
I know, I see all that too. And I'm like, it's really, so sometimes it's interesting too how you can look at things from different angles. So after I moved here, I joined Republic Gun Club because I had been the president of our gun club in Washington. And I wanted to join a gun club. And for Women's Outdoor News, sometimes I will demo guns. And so I need a place for that. Well, this one's super nice. We call it our Gantry Club because it has a lounge and 2 classrooms and super nice people. So I did one article on them about their customer service, everything they do to welcome people in for Shooting Industry magazine, because that's for the retailers. So other retailers can see these ideas. Because they have a couple of conference rooms and they told me they had things, bachelor parties, but also like baby showers and stuff there. So I did an article on them for Texas Meetings and Events magazine about out of the box thinking about where to hold meetings.
That's cool.
And then I did an article for Women's Outdoor News and I needed to talk to an instructor about drills to do with the 22 pistol. So I talked to the head instructor there, got information from him, and then submitted that. So I got out of one place, I got 3 different articles for 3 different areas and topics. So
That is so cool.
yeah.
That is so cool. I know. So let me ask you this. In Virginia, there still are some ranges that are still of the good old boys mindset and are not always women friendly. Have you found that to be the case in Texas?
Haven't.
I didn't think so.
There was one gun store I went into and they kind of looked at me, looked back down, and then when I asked a question, he told the other guy to help me. And I'm like, is it because, and then somebody else came in, he was the same way. I'm like, okay, no, they're just kind of
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing, even in Washington, like I said, I was the president of our gun club there, and it had been in existence for 92 years. I was the first female president, and I was a little concerned about that. And they were so supportive.
No
The guy,
kidding.
nothing
Oh
but
man,
helpful. They were so sweet, and um, it was a fantastic experience for me.
that is awesome.
We haven't got into that.
It shouldn't matter your gender, right?
Right.
It should matter what is your philosophy about the gun range? How do you keep people safe? How do you teach people to do the right thing and to be safe on the range and to bring your family members to share the gun industry with other people in the right way? Shouldn't matter whether you are male or female.
Yeah.
It should not. But I know I've had experiences with some ranges that are they're just not all that welcoming. And in this century, I just don't understand it. It just seems crazy to me that you don't want women there, although you might say you do to the public.
Yeah.
You don't act like it.
They don't realize how much money we spend. Like my husband will
Exactly.
use one holster until it falls apart. And I'm oh, this one's and oh, look, this one's pretty. And let's say we spend a lot of money. But then
I have a whole box of holsters.
yeah, I don't get rid of any of them because I want to show them to the other gals so that they can try
Exactly.
them before they waste money or see what's wrong. But yeah, it's holster
Yep.
clinic is fun to check all
Well,
that.
I love the fact that you're writing for magazines. I would have never thought about doing that. And I've been teaching gun safety for 9 years now with the Armed Women of America. They used to be called the Well Armed Woman, and they changed their name a few years ago. And it never occurred to me to write any articles in any magazine. I'm very cautious about what I write on my blog because, people want to shut you down when they hear you talk about certain subjects. And I'm like, you know what? That's just sad. We have freedom of speech, right? We can say anything we want, but if you want things on the social media and you don't want people to start blocking your accounts, you have to be very careful what you're saying.
And they
And so
say they want safety, but they don't want you to actually put information about safety out.
exactly. Yep.
There's a lot of work out there for writing if people want it. Of course, guns, it's a little smaller audience to write for, but there's still places and ways to think outside the box about where to write for. So like I said, the meetings and events, and not to do with guns, but one gal told me she wrote an article on geocaching for a trucker magazine. Like,
oh, that's funny.
It's something they could, do without taking something extra long. And it's really fun to try to think about the different ways that you can get an article or a story out there. But there's a ton of writing work out there. I could work more than full time just writing. Because
Really?
there's like an association newsletters. There's companies will have their sales site, but now they're starting to put a blog on because they want to be also informational. And there's just tons of writing.
So where do you think somebody would go if they wanted to write in an article of a magazine of anything? Would they try to find a current magazine that has something to do with their interest that they want to write about, right? And do they write the editor and say, hey, I'd like to write an article for your magazine? I mean, how do you get started doing that?
So to do it that way, you'd want to go online to the publication, and they should have a link for writer's guidelines.
Oh, okay.
And that tells you exactly how they want pitched. And if there's a specific editor, you want to make sure get their name right. Sometimes they have a specific subject line that how they want you to say it. And you want to make sure it's the correct editor in case there's more than one name. And then you want to be fairly succinct to do like kind of a one paragraph of like maybe how you'd introduced your topic to kind of catch their attention. And then you tell how you're qualified to write for them. Like I remember hearing that when I first started, I'm like, what does qualified mean? But it's basically say if I was doing something, my qualifications, my next paragraph would be like, I currently write for women's outdoor news and shooting industry and stuff like that. If you've never written before, you can say that too. And someone will say they're happy to work with new writers and coach them along. They don't always say if they pay or how much they pay in some of the things. And, you can decide whether you want to ask that or not.
I think just to get started, in my opinion, it wouldn't matter how much I got paid just to get my foot in the door, right? To be in a magazine. Because I've been interviewed and put in women's magazines, the last 3 or 4 years since I've been doing my blog and writing my stuff. But I'm like, I've never thought about going to like a national magazine or whatever, RV magazine, whatever, and write something for them. I have offered when we've gone camping, I have offered to do like free CPR classes for campers in the campground.
Oh,
And that is hard. People don't show up. That is very hard to do. And I didn't think it was going to be that hard. I thought, well, they're just hanging out at their campsite in their chairs. They're just, it's a nice afternoon. They're just hanging out. Well, they're not. They're out doing stuff. So I'm like, I am not sure. And Sunday mornings, people are packing up to leave, right? So it's kind of like, I have not found yet what is the best time of day to offer that kind of a class. But some of the campgrounds we've been to, they're like, yeah, we can do that. And then they don't advertise it, and they won't let me walk around handing out flyers to the campers. So I'm like, okay, so they weren't really serious about it. So I'm like, you know what? I think next year what I'm going to do is I'm going to plan out like a whole year of camping, and pick all my places and email every single one of them and say, look, this is what I do. This is what I have to offer. Can you put me on your schedule? Because a lot of them now are having events and they're putting them online. So why can't you add me to that? But we'll see.
So that's an article idea right there for one of the RV magazines.
There you go.
What is it like to try to, and how do you work with that, and how do you schedule it?
Oh, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that. I had not. See, I'm always thinking that these magazines want people who are established, or I don't know, have some very important topic to discuss, not just this is what I found when I tried to do this, that kind of a thing. But who knows what they'll take.
Yeah, and that's some do, and some are kind of like hoity-toity, and and others are just, like I said, so happy to work with, as long as you provide what you say you're going to provide, that you've agreed to, in the timeline that you've agreed to, and be open to constructive criticism. And I always say, let me know if something needs changed. I don't have any ego with this. You don't like this, I can change it. I'm not that, not, some people's egos are really wrapped up in it, I guess, and how they wrote it, and they don't think that anybody should tell them differently. And you'd be easy to work with, and they're happy to work with you. And some of them will say they want a link to 3 articles or something, which is one reason I started. So when I started back in 2011, so I was still working at the college. Our department was child and family studies. And so we had early childhood education, the daycare, preschools, and the local newspaper was starting a family magazine. And they came to ask if we would be willing to submit some parenting articles and stuff for the magazine. And so after the meeting was over, I talked to the gal separately and said, I'm wanting to get started writing because to kind of prepare for retirement, even though that was a long ways off then. And I said, how about some grandparenting articles? Because I had young grandkids in. They said, sure. And so that's how I got started doing those. And actually, most of my writing, I'm trying to think if any's been pitching, because like with Girl in the Gun, when they were still fairly new back then, and so they sent out things, say, hey, any writers, and my friend saw it and sent it to me. So I then was writing a lot for them, doing the interviews. And then there was a place up in Washington. The company's called North America Talk, and right now they're pretty much just confined to Washington, I think. But they did like each county, so there was like Thurston Talk for Thurston County, and Lewis Talk was my county, and it's positive stories about people and businesses in the community. So it's so fun. So when they started the Lewis Talk part after the other had been going, my daughter's neighbor and friend wrote for the Thurston County one. So she sent me the information on Lewis County. So then I started writing for them. So it's like, tell everybody you know that you're wanting to write or you are writing, because they'll let you know what opportunities come up. The way I started writing for Women's Outdoor News, I shot 3 gun and went to a match in Oregon, met these really wonderful people, and I must have talked about it. And of course, we became Facebook friends, and I post all my stuff on there. Well, one of the guys went to some event where he met Barbara Baird, the publisher of Women's Outdoor News. He says, hey, I know this gal who shoots and writes, and so got us connected. So I've been writing for her now for like 3 years. So pretty much, I can't think of any of mine, except maybe 1 or 2 things that I actually pitched. It was more, like I said, with the other one, I found the editor online for shooting industry. And it's all just been other people helping refer me and going to the meetings and stuff. I went to Northwest Travel Writers Conference, and they had a speaker on the Meetings and Events magazine. And so I talked to her afterwards and ended up writing for Northwest Meetings and Events for a couple of years then. So, and there's a couple of good websites, freelancewritinggigs.com. And they list new writing things every day. Writers Weekly will also list magazines that are said they're looking for writers, and then they also have a list of other freelance writing opportunities. But Writer's Digest is another good one. They have you have to pay for it, but they have like a big thick book I think they put out yearly that has all the different magazines and
Oh, wow.
they're looking for. And so I think there's more than magazines. I think they have like book publishers and everything else, so they're a really good one too. But
Wow, I think my retirement is in plan. It's
You see,
coming sooner than I thought. Now I can do
Yeah.
this.
you could do a lot, like I said, especially with that RV and stuff. I mean, there's several different ways you could go with that. There's the magazines and the, all kinds of ideas and different publications, and that information, even RVing could go in a senior magazine or in a family magazine. So any of those articles, be creative on where you can think about where to send these stories, even on that topic, because editors are always looking for new ideas.
It's funny too, because I did, and well, a lady interviewed me in an women's only RV group on Facebook. I guess it was last year, might have been a year and a half ago, it might have been last year. So we talked about safety, because I'm all about teaching safety of all different kinds, right? And she interviewed me, and they put it on their Facebook page, and I was featured for weeks about our topic about safety and how to get cameras for your RV and things you should have in the RV to use in case somebody breaks in, and all this kind of stuff. And it never occurred to me until you just said that I should look at some RV companies and talk to them about writing safety articles. So
yes,
that would be right.
See, your brain's going there.
Yes, it is. And I won't be able to sleep tonight because now I'm going to be thinking about all the things I can do.
That's awesome. That's what I want to see. Because it's a great world to get into, the writing. It opens up the doors for so many things, and it's so interesting. And interviewing people's and their stories is fascinating to hear how they got where they are and stuff. So it's a fun thing to do, and you can write as much or as little as you want. So
that's what I like about doing these podcasts. I have interviewed, I think, at least 12 people now, and every single one of them, I'm like, I want to follow you. I want to follow you. I want to follow. Like, everybody has something in their life that they're doing that is interesting to me. And I'm like, I can't do everything and I can't go everywhere, but you ladies are wonderful. So I have had a blast getting this thing started. And yes, I'm so happy. And I'm so glad that you got to come on and tell me about your writing and what you're doing, because that has definitely, I'm looking for stuff to do when I retire, whatever that is. Haven't come down with a date yet, but it's starting to trickle in here a little bit. So
as you
been writing
these things that interest you and start thinking about them for retirement, that retirement date's going to come earlier, because you'll be like, okay, I'm now ready to let go and do these things.
That's what I'm thinking. My boss is like, we have a joke about the R word. He's like, you're not even allowed. And I said, look, buddy, that letter is written and it's ready to go. It's on my computer. And anytime I want to, it goes send. And it's driving him crazy. He's like, nope, you can't leave yet. You can't do it. Nope, people aren't trained. I'm like, doesn't matter. That's right. I'm gonna go. So I love messing with him. But yeah, so when you retire, you really have to, in my opinion, you have to think about what you're gonna do, right? I am too hyper to just sit at home on a rocking chair on my front porch. That will never happen. Well, it might happen at night when I'm tired from the day, but I'm too busy and too tired, too hyper to just sit. I can't do it. Will never happen. So I'm like, okay, so what kind of things can I do? there's lots of safety things I can teach, and that's, 2 or 3 times a month, but that's not every day. So I'm like, okay, I've got to do something else to get some money coming in, because I don't want to just start taking all my retirement money out and be 95 and broke. Right. So, we're like, yeah, we want to be careful with our money. And that whole financial talk is going on right now. So I'm like, yep, I would love to do something part time. I just don't know where. I don't know what it is, but I think I do now.
Yes, I think you do.
I do. So that'll get me started. So
Good.
we're gonna go for this episode. Thank you so much for joining with me. I appreciate it so much. I'm so glad you answered the application, and it's been very educational, and I cannot wait to connect with you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And if you have any more questions about this, as you think about it for yourself down the road, let me know.
Absolutely. All right, you guys have a great day.
Thanks.